An ad for 2024 independent presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. ran during the Super Bowl last night. Let's take a look at that.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do?
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
Now, Kennedy received some critical responses for the ad on X, his cousin Bobby writing, "My cousin's Super Bowl ad used our uncle's faces and my mother's. She would be appalled by his deadly healthcare views. Respect for science, vaccines, and healthcare equity were in her DNA. She strongly supported my healthcare work at one campaign which he opposes." RFK Jr.
RFK responded to criticism on Twitter saying, quote, "I'm so sorry if the Super Bowl advertisement caused anyone in my family pain. The ad was created and aired by the American Values Super PAC without any involvement or approval from my campaign. FEC rules prohibit Super PACs from consulting with me or my staff. I love you all. God bless you." But one Twitter user pointed out that the video of the ad is still pinned on RFK Jr.'s official Twitter account. And as I look right now, that is still true. The ad has 39,000 likes and is pinned to the top of the page. And in addition to the apology that he posted directly to Bobby Shriver, he tweeted another apology that's substantially similar that is still up on his page. And so it is a little bit difficult to parse what he's apologizing for if he likes the ad enough to still be associating with it.
I like the ad. I didn't see what there was to apologize regarding it, frankly. I know many of his other family members don't support his candidacy and don't share his views, and that's their prerogative, and families often have people with different political views in them. I didn't think the ad was at all disrespectful to any other Kennedy. I liked it. I thought it was clever, and I mean, the original ad, of course, is very iconic. The Kennedy song. I think we actually have it. Let's play that.
Kennedy, 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 Kennedy.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through, but not so doggone seasoned that he won't try something new? A man who's old enough to know
And young enough to do?
Yeah.
So, to just moot this out, I think the critique from the Kennedy family, one, is substantive. They disagree with a list of his views that were set out, whether it's about the vaccine stuff or something else. But additionally, the original ad and the Kennedy mystique is all about being very closely associated with the Democratic Party. As you saw in the original Kennedy ad, it says vote Democratic repeatedly. And so the question is there something sort of inappropriate about capturing the goodwill that's associated with Camelot and the Kennedy family as a bedrock Democratic establishment family for the purposes of an independent run that also supports a number of beliefs that are not perhaps in line with people who are in the original, what people who are in the original Kennedy ad would have espoused themselves.
I mean, RFK Jr. was running as a Democrat, and he might take the position that they were not having the Democratic Party was not remotely interested in an actual primary process to challenge Joe Biden. And so he's running as an independent, but he would say he still shares many of the values of the Democratic Party. Other values it has turned its back on, and that's on them, not on him. I think that's what he would say. You can reject that, but
he can make that case. But this is the problem. If you have real critiques of the Democratic Party, which I would argue you should, then what is the purpose of trying to draw on nostalgia that is associated with the Democratic Party and its failures, frankly, to advance your own personal
I think he was just drawing on Kennedy nostalgia.
Right, but what does that mean? And does that, if you're trading on the goodwill of your family's name, and I don't mean that as an insult, I mean just quite literally trading on the goodwill of your family's name, then does that then give rise to legitimate grievances from your family who think that the things that you're advancing, rightly or wrongly, this is not a personal judgment, the things that you're advancing, frankly, have nothing to do with the Kennedy goodwill?
Maybe I think he's appealing to the the freshness, the youth of JFK, which also does apply to RFK Jr. because I'm not exactly sure how old he is, but
he's 70.
He is the spring chicken in the race. He is the youthful candidate in this matchup between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, who are both older than RFK Jr.
He's 70. So, you know, and this is, I think, was a little bit of
push-ups he can do?
This was a little bit of a frustration, I think, from some of the other candidates. I mean, he's the same age as Marianne Williamson. I think they were a year apart.
Yeah, they're...
Dean Phillips, I think, is in his mid-50s. I'm not entirely sure how old Cornel West, I can find that very quickly. He's 70 years old as well. So I do think that he gets some, like, unfair goodwill on that front as well. But the bigger question, I think, here is, who is this ad supposed to be appealing to? He is someone who did not have very much success as a Democrat. No, I mean in terms of politically. He didn't have very much success as a Democrat. When he was a Democrat, his campaign website was emblazoned with Kennedy Democrat, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Democrat. But that was never a very good match with the audience of people who he appealed to. When he would occasionally tweet something last year about the fact that he was an environmental lawyer that thinks the EPA is a good thing and we should have environmental regulations. When he would tweet about how he thought student debt should be canceled. When he would tweet innocuously about how, like, racism is bad. He would get all of this negative pushback from his base. And so in some ways, I think the rebranding as an independent is helpful to him, but it doesn't necessarily come with the accordant shift in his policy platform. And he's really benefiting, I think, from the ambiguity that the label independent allows him to have. An ad like this squarely puts him back in that, hey, I'm a Democrat. I think government programs should be funded. I support Social Security. I maybe even support a more expansive healthcare system. I support environmental regulations. I'm a regulations guy.
I mean, he says that all the time. I don't think he's being disingenuous. No, he does.
He doesn't say it all the time.
He tweets it all the time.
He does it.
He
tweets it very infrequently, and I think it's because he gets very negative backlash when he does. What he talks about, what the platforms he's been given are from these politically amorphous, right-leaning figures like Elon Musk and like David Sachs, kind of libertarian right figures. And when he goes on those shows, he talks about the subjects that they all agree on. This is not a criticism.
Well, not all.
I mean,
he just got, he got torn apart on Dave Smith's show over your favorite issue, over Israel. So,
well, yeah, I think, that's because there's no independent media that's enthusiastic about funding Israel. There just isn't. So that's an area where there's no, like, safe space for him. But generally speaking, he's been able to, I think, obscure. People were genuinely surprised when they saw some of his views about student debt cancellation, for instance. Like, who is this guy? He's a Democrat? Well, yeah, he's a Democrat. But when you listen to him on Bill Maher, when you listen to him talking to Elon Musk, they are not asking him about his environmental policy. And so an ad like this, that's just the point I'm trying to make, is that an ad like this, it seems to be wanting to appeal to people who like the idea that he's a Kennedy Democrat. But that just fundamentally isn't his audience, so who is this commercial for?
I mean, but a lot of people, Briahna, who would have considered themselves, who were Kennedy much older people, obviously were Kennedy Democrats and then ended up voting for Ronald Reagan 20 years later. So there's a political evolution in thinking. I think there are people who have fond memories of Kennedy. The Kennedy family are iconic, but also have a mix of some right-wing views and then maybe some less right-wing views on many of the issues you're talking about. I mean, a person who wants basic funding for welfare and some kind of environmental regulation, but is very skeptical of mainstream narratives on vaccines and some aspects of foreign policy, but a mixed bag of that. Maybe that's what he's offering, but that probably describes a lot of people, frankly. People are not so consistent in their, as you and I are, as like deeply committed left and deeply committed libertarian.
People see a campaign ad that's like a copy and paste of JFK's campaign ad and say, that reflects to me the kind of values that I think RFK Jr. has and which I like.
I think that might be the case. But
I don't think so. And there does seem to be some indication. I'm having a little bit of trouble getting this link open, but the ad meter does an assessment at USA Today of how these Super Bowl 58 commercials were received. And apparently the Kennedy ad did not fare well. Now, That doesn't mean the world, the moon, and the stars. Again, I think part of the issue is that it's an audience mismatch, right? But again, that's why I'm confused. Like, who?
I saw people on social media mostly discussing it positively.
Yeah, but that's
now, a lot of the people on
audience.
social media are pro RFK Jr. people, but of course, but I mean, you're saying, well, they should be turned off by the reminder that he's a Democrat because they're all right-wing people,
not
and that's
necessarily.
not
I think if
that
you're
was
in
not their response to
if
it.
If you're in his camp, you're in his camp, so you don't care. But this ads that you spend millions of dollars to play during the Super Bowl aren't intended to preach to the choir.
He didn't spend.
That your super PAC spends millions of dollars to play during the Super Bowl aren't intended to speak to the choir. The whole point of a Super Bowl ad is it's supposed to have universal appeal, which is why you get ads where they put Patrick Stewart from Star Trek, Hey Arnold for millennial
That was a great ad. It was my favorite one.
Peppa Pig for the kids, Creed for the, Gen X, or I don't know. And you cram them all into an ad, and it does well because people like that mass appeal. This, I don't see who is going to see this ad.
Sorry, I liked it.
I get it, Robby, but with all due respect, this isn't a conversation about what you personally liked. This is a conversation about the efficacy of an ad that's been run by RFK Jr. and whether or not it's going to get him more voters or not. And I simply don't see this particular ad as tapping into a new voter base, especially because it does not make an argument for why people should vote for him other than that I'm a Kennedy. It doesn't talk about policies. It doesn't make a critique of the establishment. It doesn't talk about any of the substantive reasons that I think that people are attracted to his campaign for good reason, right?
I think it will resonate positively with people and create a positive association in their minds between his candidacy and a beloved, iconic president who a lot of people look back and remember fondly. But we shall see. Let us know what you thought about this ad in the comments, please. I check them on occasion. Briahna does too, maybe?
No.
Never. More Rising right after this.